Before this video starts, I want you to know that this is a re-upload of a video that I made more than 3 months ago, but it was claimed by the individual who I'm responding to in this video. He complained that I did not provide enough credit even though I literally said who I was responding to and the title of the video, as you will see for yourselves. I apparently did not put the link to the video in the description, like how many people actually read those. Nevertheless, he said that he would send the email to YouTube to remove the strike, and I agreed to link his video in both the description and pinned comment, but so far there have been no news from either him or YouTube about the situation with the video. On my YouTube studio, it says that it is under final review, and it has been like that for 3 months. I avoided uploading the video until now because I couldn't risk having 2 copyright strikes on my channel. I will link the video in the description and in the pinned comment, as well as the channel. I didn't want to do that because I was afraid people would harass him, but he said he wanted me to do it. But I would ask you to please not harass him in any way, because you're not only harming him, but me as well. Well, now hopefully he will be a nice guy and won't copyright strike me again. Now, without further ado, enjoy the video. Today we're going to take a look at the video that was made in response to my problems with Arjun tank, worst main battle tank in the world. While I'm not directly mentioned in the video, I am mentioned in the comments, and the points made in the video are trying to address the ones I made in mine, on top of using pictures I made to attempt to make an argument against them. The video in question is World's Worst Tank MBT Arjun. Is Arjun tank piece of junk? By Alpha Defense.
Arjun main battle tank, one of the most criticized defense project of India ever.
Yeah, I wonder why.
If you understand the criticism pattern, it has seen a surge in recent past. One of the premier reason behind it is couple of posts on Quora and a video on YouTube. And unfortunately, the reference document they have used is not even authentic. In today's modern day journalism, the reference document per se doesn't matter. All they care that if there's a rebuttal, they have some text available to counter it. So if what, that is not even authentic, no one cares.
It's not authentic. Let's see what documents were referenced here. Oops, there must be some mistake because I can't see any documents referenced, neither in the video nor in the video's description.
Let's start with the timeline. The development of Arjun main battle tank started in year 1972. It was right after 1971's war, and the initial idea was to make a tank of 40 tons armed with an 105mm gun. This was the time when the world was moving towards larger guns. This was the pace of the changing world. India had to change the requirement, and thus a tank with a larger gun was designed. So the tank was now the development wasn't the one which was conceptualized. Basically, this is how it is a new tank. So the name of the project remains Arjun. One of the most complicating factor was changing environment, the threat perception, and advances in technology. This was a time where world was changing very fast, especially in this segment. Between the year 1972 and 1996, Indian Army changed its requirement 5 times. And every time there was a change in requirement, designers had to go on the drawing board again. It was only in year 1996 that Government of India decided to mass produce this tank. The mass production of this tank was done at the heavy vehicle factory near Chennai called Avdi. The funnier part is, the order given for the mass production was just 124.
That is not an excuse for such a long development period. For example, M1 Abrams, when first developed, had 105mm gun mounted on it. The requirements did change, but tanks can be upgraded, and thus the tank received 120mm gun 5 years after it was adopted. Every country changes the requirements, but the tanks are upgraded to meet those requirements. They don't go back to developing new tanks every time a new requirement is made, because the tanks are developed in such a way that they can be upgraded in the future. Let's take Arjun as an example. It is now not the same as it was when it entered service. The requirements were changed. The tank received explosive reactive armor, a remotely operated machine gun, a commander's independent thermal sight, etc. The requirements changed, but the tank adapted to the requirements.
And if you hear the criticism done by Indian Army, especially the people from Armor Corps, you'll understand that it is entirely about the logistics.
If it is about logistics, why develop the tank that would produce such a problem in the first place? Also, nice Arjun tank model you have there. You definitely didn't just take an already existing Leopard 2 model and cut the hull armor in a horrible way to make it look like Arjun. Not at all.
Now let's try understanding this timeline concept with the help of timeline of T-72. The Russian T-72 tank is direct modification on T-64. The T-64 was also called as Object 432. Its main gun was 115 mm and it entered production in year 1962 while the design was done in year 1951. The T-64 tank was later upgunned to 125 mm gun and with some more modification to its protection, mobility and armor, a altogether new tank was developed and this was called T-72. Now if we apply the same logic what critics are applying on Arjun, the timeline of T-72 was comparable. So just because the name of the project remained Arjun, it is unfair to say the development of Arjun took 30 years.
This is the worst possible argument you could have used. During the T-64's development, many requirements were changed. It originally wasn't even supposed to be a tank with composite armor. It was supposed to be better than already existing T-54 tanks. But when the engineers provided the composite armor technology, the demands shifted in the direction of composite armor that would offer protection against, at the time, modern projectiles. They also realized, during the development, that the tank could use a better gun, and 150mm gun of T-62 was mounted just as a placeholder until the production of 125mm gun was good enough to start mounting it on the tank. Thus, only a handful of T-64s with 150mm guns were made. Anyway, T-64 development still took much shorter than the development of Arjun. Now about T-72. T-72 is not a further evolution of T-64. In fact, T-72 lacked a lot of things T-64 had, especially when we look at fire control system. T-72 and T-64 were developed by two completely different companies. While it is true that T-72 is based on T-64, it was made to be more simplified and more reliable, since T-64 originally had some reliability issues. But nevertheless, T-64 and T-72 were both produced at the same time by two different companies. That can't be compared to Arjun at all, which was being developed by one company for 30 years.
Arjun main battle tank is equipped with Kanchan armor. Kanchan is a modular composite armor, and even critics do not talk about the Kanchan armor. In fact, the common argument is the turret of Arjun tank is awfully designed and has multiple weak spots, and the major one is the sight. As you can see in the picture, pointed by an arrow, right next to the gun it has a sight which kind of looks like a hole in the turret. This is one of the most common design of sight. You can find it on Abrams, Leopards, Challengers, and even in the latest T-14 Armata.
Oh my god, are you for real? Abrams doesn't have a hole in the turret for the sight, nor does Challenger 2, nor does T-14 Armata. You literally showed a picture of Abrams. I simply can't believe what I'm hearing. I mean, a lot of people might think T-14 has a hole in the armor by looking at it, but as I pointed out in numerous of my videos, that is just the cover for the actual turret. The sight is mounted on the side of the turret and does not interfere with the armor in any way. You should double check the things you want to say, and not just look at some pictures and draw a conclusion on your own. This would be the main criticism for this entire video, but let's keep watching.
The picture on the screen is the turret of a Leopard 2 main battle tank. As you can see in the picture, the mass behind the sight, which is denoted by A1 in the picture, is 666 mm. When compared to the armor on the other direction, this is comparatively lower. As can be seen in the picture, the cheek of the turret, which is A3, it is 860 mm. The critics believe mass behind the Arjun's sight is way lesser than Leopard, and their reference is this image. This is an image of a 3D art made for a game, a non-authentic source. Here is a more accurate image of Arjun and its schematic. And it can be easily seen in this image that the block behind the sight isn't as small as it's been presented by the critics. The block behind the sight is almost equivalent to the block right behind the cheek. Thus the commander of the tank is well protected, and this thing is not a hole in the armor.
Oh my god, can this video get any worse? Okay, first of all, yes, Leopard 2 does have weaker armor behind the sight than where the sight is not present, but unlike Arjun, it has an extension which at least tries to compensate for that. And don't think that the game model is the only source for that. Actual interior pictures and footage of both tanks shows us that Arjun does not have the armor extension. As you can see in Leopard 2, the extension is clearly visible from the inside of the tank, but in Arjun it is not present. There is also an interior light attached where the extension should be. People are using the model because it is accurate. Also, how stupid do you have to be to find this believable? You can do this with any tank. Here, look, Leopard 2 has armor going up to the back of the turret. Haha, I have proof. Here is the official source.
The 3D art which critics are using is available online and can be bought at $164. If you wanna buy one, contact me. I can do it for you at the cheaper cost.
If you're going to do it as you intended, I wouldn't even take it for free, not to mention pay for it.
And another image which has been circulating across the internet
Hey, that's an image I made, yay!
is also selective picking. As you can see in this image, it shows the coverage of Arjun's armor is just 60 degree, 30 degree on the either side of the barrel. When this is compared with the Leopard 2 has better coverage. It has 180 degree coverage with 90 degree on the either side of the barrel. Now have a look at the arrow in the image. It shows the protection on Arjun Mark II. Yes, they have conveniently picked up Arjun Mark I and compared it with Leopard 2. Arjun Mark II has approximately 120 degree coverage on the either side of the barrel.
Arjun Mark II still has the base armor of Arjun Mark I. The composite armor still covers only 1/3 of the turret side, and explosive active armor is placed on top of that. As I pointed out in my original video, those things here are storage boxes, not composite armor. In comparison, Leopard 2 has composite armor on the entire side of the turret. That is why it offers protection up to 180 degrees. If you shoot Arjun from this angle, you would have great chances of hitting the part with no composite armor, and penetrating the tank with no issues. Maybe even with the World War II rocket launchers. Completely frying everything inside, since that is where the ammunition is placed, which brings us to the next point.
The slide on the screen is an DRDO official slide. As it can be seen on the slide, the Arjun Mark II has Cabis Bob, which stands for Containerized Ammunition Bin with individual shutters and blow-off panel. This means ammunitions are not just protected, they are also protected from each other. In case one catches fire, others are still safe.
I have already talked about this in my original video where I also provided evidence. Arjun does not have the blast door which protects the ammo rack. Here is what I showed in my original video. That issue is the lack of the blast doors for the ammo storage in the turret. If you don't believe me, look for yourself. This is how ammo storage with blast doors looks like in Leopard 2 and inside of M1 Abrams. As you can see in this video, there are no doors closing or opening like on Leopard and Abrams. This means that if the ammunition gets hit, everyone inside is cooked. I don't know about you, but that doesn't sound really nice. Arjun, both Mark I and Mark II, appear to have the same type of protection on the turret, which do looks like some blowout panels. But what's the point? If you're going to put blowout panels, you must seal the ammo rack on the inside. If you don't, fire will still spread on the inside of the tank. The ammunition inside of Arjun appears to be sealed from all sides, similar to how it is done in Merkava's hull ammo storage. But this is done to give the crew more time to escape, not completely seal the fire. But there is one major disadvantage of this kind of protective design compared to blast door design. This only works if a single projectile is hit. But do you know what are the chances of that happening? Very, very low, because only one projectile can be ignited if it is hit directly from the back or directly from the front. But in most cases the ammo rack would be hit from the side and from different angles, which, as we previously found out, is not very good for Arjun since half of the turret's side is protected by simple steel armor. In this case, the projectile would go through multiple projectiles, breaking the protection between them and causing a big cook-off which would have catastrophic results. In case of blast doors, if multiple projectiles are hit, it will still be good for the crew because the entire ammo storage is sealed with armored doors, in which case it doesn't matter if one or multiple projectiles are hit.
Now let's come back to critics once again. They picked up this photograph and labeled tire area from the sight to the gun as a weak spot. They forgot the bottom of the sight is armored. Second, which I have corrected in the video already, that the block behind the sight is not a weak spot. And third, which is the gun. In most of the tanks, gun is always the weak point, and criticism should be taken here.
In my original video, I took the entire area where the main gun sight is as a weak spot for Arjun Mark II. specifically, because Arjun Mark II actually has explosive reactive armor which is not placed on that part of the turret, making the entire area a weak zone.
This problem can be easily rectified, and it is seen in the Leopard 3 that this can be easily rectified with the help of a barrel skirt as shown in the image with the pointer.
Leopard 3? What? I've heard people calling MBT Revolution Leopard 2A7, but Leopard 3? I haven't heard that yet. I mean, yeah, it is a good upgrade, but as I said, the point being made is that the weak spot of the gun mantlet is further extended to the right cheek.
Now let's move on to the firepower. Arjun is equipped with 120mm rifled gun, and many believe that rifled guns are old generation guns. Well, let's understand this. After the introduction of ADF SDS round, that is, after piercing stabilized design support, you don't have the required barrel that gives you a round of spin because the round now can generate a spin itself. But when you have smooth bore and you had to fire a round that requires a spin, especially the Hesh round, high explosive squash head, a rifle gun comes handy. So rifle gun can do what a smooth bore can do, but smooth bore cannot do all that which a rifle gun can do. This adds up versatility to the gun of the tank.
What? Nice Arjun turret model, by the way. Okay, let's put all jokes aside. Hesh is not good for anything in modern warfare at all. Modern high explosive projectiles can do pretty much everything Hesh can. Not to mention that the spalling ability of Hesh is completely useless against modern composite armors, since the spalling would only affect the first layer out of many that modern tanks have. Hesh could be made to be fired from a smoothbore gun, but the reason why it's not done is because it is useless to do it when you have many projectiles that perform far better than Hesh does.
And another point which critics often point out is the length of the rod fired by Arjun. A tungsten or a depleted uranium rod, which is used in armor-piercing round, are smaller in Arjun. This is laughable. Let's take an example. Qatar has ordered Rafales, but not the Meteor. So the Rafales of UAE are useless? Well, certainly not. The day they get the Meteor, it becomes as capable as Rafales of France. Similarly, if Indian Army decides to get more powerful armor-piercing round, Arjun can fire that.
What kind of an argument is that? You can make that argument for anything. If Tula develops better projectile for T-90, T-90 will be able to fire it. That argument can be used for practically any tank in existence. The point is that what Arjun currently fires is complete junk when compared to modern projectiles. As I pointed out in my original video, the projectile penetrates more than 2 times less than any modern APF SDS, because it is incredibly short. Still, that is not the main argument against rifled guns. Rifle guns have much shorter lifespan in form of the number of projectiles they can fire before requiring a barrel replacement, because the gun rifling is way more likely to get damaged than a smooth surface, increasing the barrel wear. Even the British, who have been using rifled guns on their tanks for possibly the longest period of time, are potentially going to replace it with the German L55 smoothbore gun.
One of the most important things to be noted here is that the turret of Arjun tank is loved by Indian Army. They in fact wanted the turret of Arjun tank on the hull of T-72. This entire setup was called Tank X. In fact, there was a prototype of Tank X. After Russia protested against it, this project was scrapped.
Arjun's turret is nice, yeah, comfort-wise it is, but you can't just expect to mount it on a T-72 and have the tank perform without issues. The turret is much heavier than the one of T-72. It would heavily degrade the mobility of the tank, since the T-72's engine is less powerful than the one of Arjun.
And it is very important to understand here that Indian Army does not have a problem with Arjun as such. They have a problem of logistics. With a fleet of 4,000 Russian-made tanks, it is very difficult for Indian Army to shift from the Russian philosophy to the Western type. It requires huge investment in training, infrastructure, and logistics.
As I said at the beginning, if logistics are the problem, why develop such a tank in the first place? Every country has at one point changed from one design to another. It is simply a problem of making a decision. The problem here is that Arjun is not good enough to make such a decision. It is simply not worth it.
But one must understand, to sit on the global high table, you cannot be importing things like tank. Another factor is cost. The cost of T90 MS is 16 crores, whereas Arjun is 24 crores already. Please note, these costs are of year 2000, and with the changes in Arjun, it will go costlier further.
Again, Arjun is not worth it. T90 MS is already cheaper than Arjun, and it is far, far, far superior. Arjun doesn't even come close to T90 MS. In order to make Arjun good, a lot of money would need to be invested in the project and a lot of things would need to be reworked. In conclusion, this video bad, it completely missed the mark. Instead of actually talking about the good things of Arjun Mark II, the creator was trying to give excuses for the actual problems the tank has. I mean, my original video was to talk about the problems of the tank, so why not mention how Arjun Mark II has superior fire control system than T90S by having battle management system, commander's own thermal sight, etc., or having a remotely operated machine gun compared to T72 and far better fire control system than it. But no, we must make up excuses, don't we? I wouldn't personally call Arjun the worst tank in the world, since there are tanks that are worse than it that are still in service, including the T72 variant that India operates. And just to be clear, since some individuals said how I hated India or whatnot in the comments of my original video and the video I'm responding to, I do not. I have been pointing out the problems of the tanks from all around the world, and I do appreciate nice comments left on my original video by people from India. Thank you for your nice words. And that would be all. I hope you enjoyed. I certainly did. If you like my content, you can consider supporting me on Patreon. If not, you can leave a like on the video or subscribe to the channel if you're new. And I will see you all in the next video. Have a nice day.